Welcome to this video where I'm going to be talking about learning to solo raids. Now I'm just going to be doing this Tower of Despair on normal just for purposes of showing you that you can do this. So this video is going to be designed for people that have never soloed raids before. Maybe it was something you haven't considered, maybe it was something you didn't think that you could do. Or maybe it's just something you're interested in and you haven't done it yet. And so what I really want to show you is that you can do this. And trying raids on normal at first is how you want to start out. You don't want to just jump into the highest difficulty your first time of soloing a raid. At least I wouldn't recommend it. It's good to do it on normal, because if you're even if you're relatively experienced with raiding, you might find that when you're soloing a raid, you probably will find that when you're soloing a raid, you're going to learn a lot more about that raid, because you're going to be forced to do everything, and you might realize that there are things that need to be done that you weren't aware of before, because now again you're in that position to be forced to do everything. So I'm not choosing Tower of Despair because this should be the first one. I think this maybe is closer to maybe like an intermediate raid that you would want to try to solo. Like if you're new to soloing raids, I would recommend maybe Demon Queen to be a first raid you want to solo, or even like Tempest Spine. Tempest Spine really plays more like a quest. But Demon Queen I think is a really good raid to solo. Do them over level. Heck, do it on heroic even. Maybe you have an epic tune, do Demon Queen on heroic, just so that you get a feel for okay, I can do this, and then try it on maybe on epic normal, and then work up from there. Then epic hard, and then eventually you're going to be soloing it on epic elite. And then another good early raids to try to solo would be like Reaver's Fate and Giant Hold, the heroic Giant Hold quest, Vision of Destruction and the Subterrane. And so those are going to be probably the easier ones, the ones if you're new to soloing raids, those are the ones you're going to want to try first. And then you can get into maybe some more intermediate level raids like Tower of Despair, like Shroud, for example. Soloing heroic Shroud is a great milestone. I mean, that if you're a serious DDO player, that's something that should be on your bucket list, to solo Shroud. And it's a really neat accomplishment to do it, especially that first time. It's okay, do it. I'm not saying at level. I'm just, take your level 30 in there. And it's a whole different experience when you're in there by yourself, and suddenly in part 1 you're responsible for DPSing all the portals, and you're responsible for making sure that all of the portal keepers don't stay in the zone so long that you fail, and you're responsible in part 2 for prepping all the bosses and splitting them up and getting to that crystal in time, breaking it, and you're responsible for finishing all the waters in part 3, and so on and so forth. So it's a whole different experience. It gives you a whole different appreciation for the raid when you're doing all that, and it helps you learn the raid better, which is another great reason to learn to solo raids. If you watch my videos, you know that I lead a lot of raids, and soloing raids was an important part of my evolution of understanding raids better. Because when I'm leading a raid, I want to understand the raid and know every single part of that raid through and through, so that I can explain it to others, so that I know what to do, so I know what to do when things go wrong, so that I know, what are the jobs and roles are that need to be done, etc. Another great reason why you would want to solo raids is because some of these older raids, like Tower of Despair, for example, or Reaver's Fate, it can be, next to impossible to try to get a group together. So if you, what I want you to see is that you can do this. And, you may be, I know there's a lot of people out there that, maybe you don't even raid at all. Or maybe you thought, that there was no way that you can solo a raid. And like I said, I want you to see that you can do this. Now, in a video recently, I talked about how I was mentoring a guildie. He was kind of a newer guildie, and he really needed some help. He was dying a lot in raids, and just too much. He was dying an unacceptable amount, and I'm not trying to belittle him. I'm just saying he was dying so much that like I really needed to just sort of take him under my wing for a few weeks and help him out. And so I basically like did a couple lives, just me and him, you know, basically two-manning everything, and I'd take him into raids, took him into Demon Queen, Epic Elite Demon Queen, like at level, and we two-manned it, you know. And I said, okay, now in 3 days when you're off timer, I want you to solo this on hard, and he did it. And he didn't think, like, that wasn't even on the radar for him. Like up till that point, he didn't think that it wasn't even fathomable for him to solo a raid, you know. And then we did this raid, you know, on Elite at level, just the two of us. And I said, okay, now in 3 days when you're off timer, I want you to do it on hard. And he did it. And then we did Shroud, and we were over level, you know, we were well into epics. But we two-manned heroic Elite Shroud. I said, okay, you know, in 3 days when you're off timer, I want you to solo it on hard, and he did it. And so it helped him realize that he could do that too. And you know, I want these raids to feel. I want you to feel like you can do that. And it's okay to come in here on on normal, you know, or whatever difficulty you feel comfortable with. And I'm just on a junk build right now. Like, this is just, you know, I'm 11 cleric and 9 warlock, playing it as a warlock, so I'm really underpowered. Now I know you're thinking, oh, you have a ton of past lives. Oh, I have a pretty good collection of past lives, but like, but at the same time, I'm severely handicapped because, you know, I'm playing this just junk build. So I'm not trying to create a picture like if you just started playing DDO 3 weeks ago. I'm not trying to say you should start trying to solo raids. Like, I want to, you know, I want you to join some raids. I want you to, you know, if you know, once you've been playing DDO for maybe a handful of months, and you know, you feel like you're getting a grasp of the game, and you want to take your game to the next level, then it's, you know, it can be time to, you know, maybe try soloing a few raids. And like I said, Epic Demon Queen, you know, whether you choose heroic or epic. Reaver's Fate, Vision of Destruction. These are great raids to learn to solo raids on. Now when you're doing this one here, I like to stand in these little cubbies over here, these little rooms. Once they open up, they're not open right away because, you know, these guys, they do the anti-magic, or they just toss you, or the anti-gravity, excuse me. And if you're standing in this cubby, then you just get bounced around this little room as opposed to getting flung across the zone like you saw happen a minute ago. See, I just get tossed into the ceiling, no big deal. Boom. Bump my little head. Now, I could even be doing this on Elite. I actually came in here earlier tonight on Elite just to see how I would do on this junk build. And I was, you know, not even halfway into part 2 just as a metric, because I was thinking about wanting to do this video. I wasn't sure, you know, what difficulty I'd want to do the video on, because I didn't want to do a 75-minute video of me doing it on Elite. But, you know, I think normal is a good difficulty to do the video on, to fit the theme of, you know, learning to solo raids for the first time. If you bring an epic level tune in here, I mean, these guys with, you know, 118,000 hit points, that's, you've got Epic Elite quest bosses with that many hit points. And maybe, one of the good metrics for, are you ready to start trying to solo raids is, are you soloing epic elites? And that doesn't mean you have to be able to solo all of them, but are you soloing some of them? And if you are, then your game is probably at a level where you're ready to start trying some of these. And even if not, some of those heroic raids, like you can do those. And the reason why I'm using that as a metric is because usually people, when soloing epic elites is not something you're doing, in your first few weeks of playing the games typically. So, like I'm just saying, like once you've evolved to the point where you're doing that, or you feel comfortable doing that, then that's probably a similar point where you're evolving to a point where, you can be comfortable doing this. But yeah, like I said, getting a group together for these older raids can be really tough. And, there might be loot that you want to farm. You might want to get the Torque out of Demon Queen. You might want to get one of the rings out of here. You might want to get, the healing gloves or the ring out of Reaper's Fate, for example. You might want to get the Braces of the Glacier or the Tharn's Goggles out of Vision of Destruction. That's a great item. And I just did a Vision of Destruction as a teaching raid. We did it last weekend, and that raid, even though it predates me, so it's at least 7 years old, it still has, like, Tharn's Goggles is still relevant today by today's standards, and that's really impressive that you have this piece of gear from over 7 years ago that's still relevant. Really stood up well. And obviously, there's other stuff from that quest that just doesn't hold up. Gloves of the Glacier, for example. Back in the day, 6 years ago, I was drooling over that. Get that Glacial Assault set, but today it's just, those gloves are definitely not worth it. The set's definitely not worth it. But the bracers are still pretty neat. There's better, but Arch Magi. But you know what? The 2-piece Glacial Assault set, it's not so bad. If you it's not a bad source of glaciation. It's just not, if you don't have it, it's probably not worth trying for, because you're definitely going to get higher glaciation elsewhere. Alright, so this part, just speaking to strategy specific to this raid, traditionally you'd have someone like kite the shadows around or tank the shadows at the bottom of the stairs. But today, because of everybody, all the warlocks and stuff and the favored souls got this auras of menace, and everybody's tossing AoEs now. All kinds of AoE procs, so that they're, these shadows are getting up the stairs now because just everything's attracting them up there. So you better be able to, this is advice for everybody. You better be able to survive them. You better know what to do, because they're gonna come up here. And so, we don't even bother with the kiting of them or the tanking of them anymore, because we can just DPS them down so fast. But one of the tricks about those shadows is that you don't want to be moving around. They tick damage, and it's cold damage when they're moving through you or you're moving through them. So if you just stand still, they're ticking at a much slower rate than if you're running all around. So you just want to stand still and just let the damage tick. And Fire Shield, the hot version, the red version that absorbs cold, can be really valuable. And I was just talking to somebody at 2-man Vision of Destruction the other day with just a pug, and he didn't have Fire Shield scrolls, for the detonator bats. And I was saying, that's a great, if you don't have that spell memorized in your class spell list, go get some scrolls. Even if you can UMD them, that's a really important one to have, I feel, for everybody, because I mean, you can absorb 50% of fire damage or cold damage with that spell. That's huge. And if you're soloing this raid, you're going to want to make sure that you got remove curse, you've got remove disease, you've got neutralize poison, you've got some way to cure ability damage, lesser resto pots or heal scrolls, or because these guys will get you with all of that stuff. So I'm showing you a 127 armor class, so not super high for level 25, 150 PRR, 77 MRR. And you can see, I mean, I'm not getting phased at all. I mean, again, just on normal, but I want you to see that you can do this. And once you do it on normal, and you're confident that you can handle that with no problem, do it on hard. You get it down on hard, do it on elite. And these are really, really fun accomplishments. Especially the first time. It's just nothing like the first time you solo a raid. It's so awesome. Be really careful when you're clicking on this shrine. It's so easy to accidentally click on that portal. But if you do go through there, don't move, just type /stuck. It'll bring you right back here. Also, make sure you got your boots of anchoring for part 3, whether you're soloing this or with a group. The boots of anchoring, as far as I'm concerned, are a must, unless you're on a tune that never fails a will save, even on a 1. I want you to have these boots of anchoring. And they protect you from being banished. The boss Horath here casts Blasphemy, which is a banishment, or has a banishment effect. And it'll toss you right out of the raid. You're not going to be able to get back in and get your loot. Some people just like to use spell absorption, but if you're soloing this, he's going to eat through your charges really fast, and then you're going to be left with nothing. So make sure you have your boots. I mean, again, no matter, even if you're soloing this or not, if it's possible for you to fail a will save, then you want to have your boots on, and put them on before you enter this part, because like I said earlier, everybody's got these auras of menace now and stuff that can cause the boss to aggro on you immediately as soon as you step in, and you can get banished right away. I've seen it happen. And I'm emphasizing that because the old school method was to get everybody in here, step up a little bit, everybody then throw buffs, get your haste, and then put the boots on. That's not a good thing to do anymore, because they can't, because you can get banished right away. So since we're just doing it ourselves, we don't need to I'm helpless. How did that happen so fast? Um, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, since we're just selling this, we don't need to take Horath over to the, between the thrones, which is a popular place to tank him. Ability score too low. Why would my ability score be too low? Oh, because my wisdom item was on my boots. And now I can't cast my divine spells. That's funny. But not haha funny. No divine punishment for me. So now we got Sully here to deal with. And he is an optional. A lot of people don't know that. You don't have to kill Sully, Sulamades. You just get an extra chest, and it's just a junk chest. You can just kill Horath, and if you just kill Horath, Sully is like, I'm out. He just runs away. So we're just gonna kill Horath. So a lot of people might say, that these rings in here are obsolete. And they're definitely not as useful as they used to be. I mean, they used to be amazing, You could have Insightful Stat 2 at level 18, and that was, like, incredible back in the day. Hence the name Incredible Potential. But even today, these rings can be nice for level 18, 19, 20, maybe even early epics, depending on what configuration you get. There's different like set bonuses, and I guess the set bonuses probably aren't really relevant, but there's different things that you can put on the ring, and it's basically you're putting a heroic green steel tier 2 ability onto a ring. And I know one of the popular things for monks to do for a long time was to put like Holy Burst on there. Back in the day, years ago, soloing raids was a lot more challenging. Obviously when the level cap was 20, or even was 25, certainly a raid like this when the level cap was 25 a few years ago would have been a lot more challenging because you didn't have as much gear, as many abilities, but now that the level cap is 30, a lot of these older raids are going to be, way, way easier to solo and very, very soloable, sort of for the masses. I mean, back in the day when level cap was 20, I mean, you only had your just top tier players able to solo raids like this, but now the level cap is 30, just about any experienced player, once you've been playing for a few months, you feel like you got a decent grasp on the game, you're doing some DPS, you got some survivability, you can totally do this. Start on normal, build up your confidence, build up your understanding of these raids, work up to hard and elite. I know you can do it, especially on these older raids. I haven't even had to heal myself this entire time other than using heal spells for getting rid of poison and disease and stat damage. Piece of cake. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope that, if you're new to soloing raids or it's something you've been interested in, I hope that seeing this helps you take that next step. And if you have any questions about any of my videos, you can respond on YouTube. And if you happen to be on Sarlona, you are welcome to send me a tell.